You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
Hi, this is Grace.
And you're with us on our Durian Heat, where we discuss interesting issues in Southeast Asia. And what's interesting is we are moving ahead to 2016. How awesome is that?
That is very scary, actually.
Yeah.
We're all getting 1 year older from the way I see it. And there's definitely a lot of things to look forward to, but also a lot of things that I think you cannot really foresee, might have a lot of surprises waiting for us next year.
But before we dwell into the uncertainty of 2016, let's look back and discuss about the highlights of 2015. And of course, right now around the corner, the major hype is on Star Wars. But aside from pop culture, I think I want to highlight something that had just happened recently, which is the ASEAN Summit.
Right.
That's where we had the 27th ASEAN Summit. Malaysia was the host. And what we also saw, the invitation extended to Prime Minister and presidents from all over the world. We saw Modi, we saw Shinzo Abe, and of course President Barack Obama.
Yes, and apart from that, of course, we were covering the whole event, and they highlighted a lot of pressing issues as well, especially in terms of human trafficking and also the haze that, of course, plagued Southeast Asia this year. It was at a really, really bad situation.
It was really bad. I think your voice changes because you want to sound like the haze was affecting your throat. But it did affect some of us in terms of the way our sensitivity towards the air quality in Kuala Lumpur.
And but then apart from that, when all those president and the prime minister came to Malaysia for ASEAN Summit, they also really emphasized on the terrorism as well, because that's one of the highlights, that throughout we had a lot of incidents all over the world, starting from we had a one at Thailand, and also that sort of led to have another incident in France. So that brought a lot of worrisome and also concerns from public. So the presidents, also the leaders, they expressed their concerns about that. And haze also, yes, of course, one of the highlights throughout the 2015, mainly because there were not immediate reaction taken from the government, especially from Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, where they started with pointing fingers at each other. Then they realized how serious it was to affect the public health and also to close down the public schools here and there.
Yeah, that's true. I think haze was definitely a major problem aside from terrorism, which was a global problem too. Besides global issues, I think I want to put a focus on something that is more closer at home. I'm talking about the two elections that were held this year. One is, of course, Singapore election, and another one is something that has caused a huge hype, which is the success of the Myanmar election, where we now seeing the opposition party Aung San Suu Kyi's and NLD winning a majority of the seats, and now will be forming the new government for Myanmar.
I think that came as a great news and also as a surprise for most people. We never really thought that, it just in one elections, they'll be able to defeat the current ruling government with President Thein Sein and take over by Aung San Suu Kyi. And she was like the beacon of hope for most people in Myanmar. I remember reading a lot of articles where they were all so excited and just hoping that there will be a change, especially the Muslim community and other minority groups in Myanmar at the moment, because they are the ones who have it the worst. And that shows that change can happen, actually.
Yeah. Yes, we can.
But at the same time, to add on that, I think Myanmar, as much as the nation may have hope now because it has the transition from military to democracy, but I think it comes with a lot of challenges because for Aung San Suu Kyi becoming the leader of the nation, she has to face, especially when it comes to minority, their own rights to be in that country. And it is quite well known that she's been pretty silent about that specific the area, especially to the Rohingya community. So once she really controls or overlooks the whole situation, she can't ignore all those minor problems that's happening in Myanmar. But on the other hand, it opens a lot of platforms for foreign businesses to come in and invest in the Myanmar because the nation has a lot of potential.
I think with AEC, definitely the ASEAN Economic Community, definitely Myanmar will have that edge to compete in the regional and hopefully global economy. But you mentioned something about the Rohingya community. Gowri, the highlights of this year definitely was also about refugee crisis.
Yes, it was. We're talking about the boat people as well, who were trafficked in well, we had almost thousands of them.
Yep.
And because Thailand suddenly decided to launch a major crackdown on human trafficking, we had a lot of traffickers who just fled the place and left all these victims of trafficking with nowhere to go, and all of them ended up on a boat. And then we know they tried to seek for asylum. They were coming to Indonesia, coming to Malaysia, Singapore, and it seems that Malaysia has also been sort of contributing to this whole human trafficking crisis in Southeast Asia. And there was also a lot of investigations that took place, and we even found mass graves
Wow.
in the borders between Malaysia and Thailand. That was one of the most shocking news that we had, harboring dead bodies of human trafficking victims in Malaysia.
Correct.
And nobody knew about that.
I totally, completely agree with you on that. I think one of the biggest crises that ASEAN has yet to be able to handle is the refugee crisis in this region, especially focusing on the Rohingya problem. What are the other highlights, Grace?
Well, Gowri mentioned about haze, but other than that, we also had innovation in transportation industry, which is Uber. That has brought a lot of popularity.
And you are a big fan of Uber, I suppose.
Yeah, because it's very convenient, personally. But other than that, it also brought a lot of oppression or anger from the public taxi drivers, which they felt threatened, mainly because Uber taxi drivers are taking their jobs away. But at the end of it, what they really need to know is whether they should improve their own services and the facilities, the condition of car, how they treat their clients when they ride taxis, and also the taxi rate, which are very also important elements when it comes to public transportation. So still, a lot of people, they don't really care, regardless of what happened. More people are using Uber every day, and no matter how taxi drivers express their consent, but they're still, the government and authorities, they really need to look into the services of taxis.
I think Uber definitely sort of revolutionized the whole public transportation system in Malaysia. And although it is a cab service, but like you said, it's a very clear-cut situation, actually. If you don't want somebody to use some other service, make yours better.
Right.
And I think people always go for whatever that's cheaper, whatever that's more efficient. And of course, we had a lot of cases of taxi drivers harassing Uber drivers and being violent, but that only sort of worsen their reputations in the country, wherever it is. And ultimately, people want better service. They want safer, cheaper service, and that's what they will go for.
So would you go for taxi after this?
Eh?
I don't think so. Well, I am also a fan of Uber, and I am not afraid to say that because I'm also still a student, and I would definitely go for the cheaper alternative according to my super tight budget.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like with so many price hikes, especially in the transportation industry, I think for the taxi industry, they really need to change the way they do business in order for them to attract more customer like yourself. I want to highlight something that is a bit more cheerful.
Yeah.
I know we've been complaining a lot on issues in Southeast Asia. Let's move on to Canada. The reason why I want to highlight this piece of news because I think the moment the person became the Prime Minister of Canada, everyone was in disbelief. Like, are you sure he's not a model?
I think his photos were all over social media, and suddenly Canada was in the center of attention.
I know,
of the
for
whole
so
world.
long, Canada was just
No one
shelved.
cared who was Prime Minister before. Maybe that's a bit sad, but I think the thing about Justin is it's not just his looks.
Justin Trudeau,
Justin Trudeau, he also walks the talk. He's very liberal in his approaches. They currently have the most diverse cabinets in the world. They have almost 50% of the members are women.
Yep.
They have refugees. They have immigrants. All making up the cabinet and fighting for the country, because at the end of the day, they're all Canadians, and that's what matters, I guess.
And also with the help of social media, he has become even more famous. And not only because of his look, but his speeches and his pictures that really show that he really is worried about the current situation, what's going on.
Right.
And then him being very sincere towards whatever is happening, that has brought a lot of people's trust and also love towards him even more.
There are people who actually say, why not he become Malaysia's Prime Minister?
That's true.
I don't mind, having a younger Prime Minister, to be honest. I mean, we need some good-looking people in the cabinet anyway.
True. And also, before that, I also want to talk about some football highlights which happened in 2015. Of course, there are two major incidents, and one just happened yesterday, which is Jose Mourinho, the manager of Chelsea, actually got sacked, the coach of Chelsea, who is supposed to be the chosen one, and just because of that, and that was a news that also shook the entire social media. And I just checked just now, and Jose Mourinho right now is trending higher than Star Wars.
Really?
On Twitter.
I can't believe, but I received the news yesterday and I was in shock.
Just yesterday, the board decided to fire.
Does it mean that there are more football fans than the Star Wars fans out there?
That's what it looks like. And also another thing that happened much earlier this year, which was in June 2015, we had Barcelona, the Spanish football team, which actually won what they call a treble, which means they won 3 titles that year. They won
what kind of titles is it?
They won La Liga, which is the Spain title. And then they won Copa del Rey, which is also another title under the Spanish league. And they also won the Champions League,
wow,
which is a competition between all the major leagues.
So it's the inter-club leagues.
That's right.
Wow.
So they emerged as the winners of Europe, and they sort of reinforced the reputation as Barcelona being the best football club in the world.
And why you're still not a Barcelona fan, I guess?
Because Hala Madrid. That's why. So Champions League, that was sort of a major highlight in terms of football, and they also became like. They were already a feared team, but I guess people fear them much more now. And there will be another round of Champions League next year as well. So
awesome.
See how it goes.
Anyway, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll discuss further on the new year 2016.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Good morning, this is Arlene.
Good morning, this is Gowri.
Welcome back, this is Grace.
And you are still with us on our Durian Heat. Today, of course, sharing about what's going to happen in 2016. And previously we discussed on what we had been experienced back in 2015, and a lot of things that had happened since then. But in the future, what will be the major political and economic situation that will plight Southeast Asia first up, I think I want to highlight things that is kind of obvious and around the corner, which will be happening next month, which is the Parliament process for the TPPA.
Right. And then it has been going around the issue. I wouldn't say issue, the news itself, since it was announced that TPP will be concluded very, very soon. A lot of people also came up with their opinions which are against it because of the treatment towards especially the local people and local companies. And they also doubted America, especially when it comes to the improvement of certain sectors, agriculture sector, and whether they're going to get help from other countries and losing of their jobs, employment, and so on. So there are a lot of concerns that were expressed by the public when it came to TPPA. But no matter what, it will still go on, and it will still be proceeded to have a conclusion, and all those countries will be able to cooperate each other.
And I think one of the biggest concern is that most of the discussion was done behind closed doors.
Yep.
And as much as they said that the text is available now and you can view it, but not a lot of people are still aware about that. And even those who are protesting against TPP are usually those who come from an economic background, or otherwise they don't really know. I mean, they probably know I have to oppose this. This is bad for Malaysia, but they don't necessarily know why and how it impacts them. And
actually, you are completely correct on that, because the impact assessment was done only after the document was released. I mean, how can you expect Malaysians to make such an important decision within such a short notice? Can you imagine within just 1 month, Malaysian parliamentarians need to decide whether they need to oppose or accept the TPPA, and that's a huge ordeal.
That's right. And within 1 month, how much can you educate the people?
Exactly.
How much can you explain to the layman about what TPP is and what are the consequences of signing this and how it's going to ultimately impact Malaysia or even Southeast Asia?
A lot of people might not realize TPPA is a game changer. It's not something that I would say has a clear black and white impact. It has both good and bad impact. But if Malaysia is not ready to face its impact, then majority of the impact that we might face as a nation would be bad, because we would be losing out on terms of technological advances, innovation. I mean, with laws such as IP law, intellectual property laws, and with a stronger and more stringent laws on government procurement, on labor law, and so on and so forth, Malaysia is not ready for all these things. We are still weak.
Yeah, I mean, not only Malaysia. When you talk about Southeast Asia, my question here is, are we all ready to face TPPA after it is really concluded and finalized? Are we ready to cooperate each other to make this happen, or will there be still the government or even the parties which will go against it?
And besides the TPPA, I think one thing that I want to highlight, I think quite sadly, is the slow economic growth in Southeast Asia. A lot of experts are foreseeing that 2016 will not be a good year for all the Southeast Asian countries, including Malaysia.
I think it's quite evident, as we can see even this year, the whole year, we've had so many ups and downs, and especially in Malaysia, we saw the ringgit drop to an entirely crazy level that we have never experienced. And
I don't want to go to Singapore when it's times 3.
You can't go anywhere. Singapore, Australia, especially the US. Well, unless you're like a millionaire or something. So even a millionaire, I think, will not be a millionaire anymore due to the currency exchange. But and we also saw how China plays such an important part. That a small change in the economy in China also affects the rest of us all over Asia, and also Malaysia being one of the trading partner for China. And if things are still slowing down and prices are going up, I think that's another issue that has been quite bad in Malaysia.
Yeah, I think besides in terms of our strong reliance on China in exports, I think one of the clear reason why our economy is doing far worse than a lot of other countries is because our dependent on oil, and the oil prices has not been going up since a year ago, where the oil suddenly had a surge. A huge drop in terms of demand.
And speaking of, while we're on the topic of economic growth, I think I would like to also talk about Indonesia, where President Jokowi is actually facing a lot of challenges at the moment with the country. A lot of critics have voiced out against the way he's handling the country, and saying that if he doesn't do something soon enough, and Indonesia's economy will just go down the drain. As it is right now itself, the economy is probably at one of the worst stages that it has been in the last few years, and they definitely want to see Jokowi at least coming up with some reforms, coming up with a new strategy to see how he can push the country forward, because they have a lot of potential. The population itself, it's crazy. They do have an emerging middle class which can support that growing economy, but so far it's not been quite convincing, the numbers.
That's true. I think when it comes to Indonesia's economy, is pretty, I would say, critical, because their economy depend a lot on commodity. They are not as innovative as a lot of the other economies that we see in Southeast Asia, like Malaysia and Singapore. Their over-reliance on commodity economy, like primary products, is a huge problem with them. Like, they over-depend on mining, on coal, on oil, on all other things that I think they should do away if they want to be an innovative economy that is could be the largest economy in Southeast Asia soon.
And while they're doing that, I think another issue that they need to address is corruption as well. And that was one of the highlight or the base of Jokowi's political campaign as well, where he had this anti-corruption campaign, and because of that, a lot of people also had faith in what he was going for, what he promised to the people. But so far, even in terms of handling corruption, we haven't seen any valid, substantial measure from his part. And last I read, they are still bogged down with corruption, and nothing much has improved since Jokowi
I think
has
the only thing
over.
he had done so far this year was changing the economic minister.
And a few reshuffling here and there. And he's also dubbed as the Obama of Southeast Asia, so he has a lot resting on his shoulders.
That's true. And another thing I want to highlight further is also relating to terrorism. We mentioned earlier, terrorism was a big deal in 2015, and we will see the trend continue in 2016 with ISIS growing exponentially, interestingly.
That's true. And then I was personally scared during ASEAN summit, because there were a lot of warnings, all over, because all those leaders were flying into Malaysia. But other than that, what worries us more is whether Southeast Asia, in terms of security strengthening, whether are we ready to protect ourselves from getting attacked by these terrorists. And also another point to add on is whether are we do we have enough information, because terrorists, they can educate their own people via a lot of platforms, and social media is also one of them, which has brought a lot of impact on the Southeast Asia. Whether we know or whether we don't know, there are still a lot of people, and there are people from the elite background also. They are convinced by these people via whatever the platforms that these people are providing to them, to join their ISIS. And that's the scary part, that we thought that they will only approach the people who need, in terms of finance, in terms of emotional feel, but they also do target these people who are very well educated, who know of ISIS even before than us. So that really worries us, and Southeast Asia has really, really huge populations.
And the scary thing about ISIS is also they are so good at making use of social media. They're so good at real-time reporting. The moment they have someone under hostage, or they're planning to take someone's head off. And recently also they have launched an app that will be available on Android devices soon. And I think they're not doing this. Of course, they're aggressive in their own ways, but they're also very clever at making use of social media
Right.
to make ISIS seem so cool and so appealing to the masses, especially people who are on the verge of thinking about joining ISIS or on the verge of joining. It makes
Right.
it only easier for them to gain access.
Right.
Well, for me, if there's one organization that desperately need to be seen cool, it's probably ASEAN.
That's true.
The next ASEAN summit will be held in Laos. What's more, Laos is a poor country with not many economic opportunity, but they will be shouldering a very heavy burden to host the next ASEAN summit in 2016 in Luang Prabang and Vientiane. I'm really doubting if they are able to do so.
Well, that's very true. I mean, they had their own chair perhaps like decade ago, 11 years ago as ASEAN chair, but the whole community has changed since then. And then looking at the economic growth and the current status of Laos, our question is whether is it really ready to chair the whole ASEAN committee next year, which is just less than a month away.
I think it will be like the World Cup.
Right, is it?
Where they just have the money, and instead of spending it on things that matter, they're just gonna pour everything into the summit to make Laos look really cool and posh.
You're talking
So all
about the
ministers-
Brazil World Cup
Yeah,
recently.
that's right. I mean, the same concept.
Right.
As in, when the government has all these funds, where they could be using it for something else, for the people, or to build infrastructure, to improve. But instead, they're probably going to pump it all into ASEAN Summit to make it look fancy and all. So it looks good in the eye of the world.
You never know that could happen. And then, after all, this ASEAN community really needs to be people-centered community, not just like
Not
conference
just
theme.
minister centered.
or just the high-level people theme-centered.
With
It really
fancy
needs
food.
to, yeah, exactly.
You know what? I think they should create an app and get some social media advice from people like ISIS. Just kidding. They shouldn't actually, not at all. But yeah, I think Laos is probably in desperate need to really
For sure.
regain its momentum from what the success that we saw during the ASEAN summit in Malaysia. Anyway, we'll take another short break. When we return, we'll discuss further on a year 2016, what to expect.
The Durian Heat. Bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
Welcome back. This is Grace.
And you're still with the three of us, sharing with you on what are the trends in 2016 that you should look for. We discussed the heavy topic on politics and economy in 2016 that we should discuss and look forward to it. But I think a lot of people might want to know what are the trends, especially trends that are pop culture trends that we should look. And I think the major things that I want to highlight after the Star Wars is definitely a string of franchise on superhero movies, on Star Trek series, and many more.
Yeah, I think one of the movies that I'm really looking forward to is Captain America Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are so used to seeing Avengers and all the superheroes coming together, but this time they will be opposing one another between Iron Man and Captain America. So I think that will be really interesting. And we also have Popeye the movie, which is coming out.
Oh my God, Popeye!
Yeah,
it's my
and-
childhood thing.
Yeah, we grew up watching it since we were kids, so I'm really excited to see how they're going to make the movie happen.
That's cute.
Yeah.
And even younger generation, they may not even heard of
That's
that.
true,
That
that's true.
character, it was very famous among our era.
For me, I'm really looking forward to Suicide Squad. I'm totally in love with superhero franchise. I don't know why. I think it's really awesome that they're doing this. And of course, I think, we have to watch art movies too, but I'm not really familiar with any of them, so I'm not here able to comment on it. But moving on from Hollywood movies, especially with the focus on superhero franchise, we move on to something that is more technology focused, which is on smartphones.
That's right. There's a lot of new smartphones coming out in 2016. And of course, the most anticipated one right now is the Apple iPhone 7.
Right.
Which will be the new phone. And following the usual Apple tradition, it should be out in September.
Yep.
So if you guys can wait until September, go ahead. If not, there's always iPhone 6 Plus S. And
What's the S?
I don't know.
It's
I'm not an Apple fan.
addition after
Yeah, like a few extra features.
Yeah. But then what's cool about Apple iPhone 7, I read about it before, it's that it will be waterproofed. So you can just simply go out in a raining day, or you can just spill your coffee on it.
It's okay. I will stick to my Xiaomi.
But you have a Xiaomi with you?
I will. That's actually my plan next year. I think I'm looking forward at China-made phones right now. It's probably a quarter of the price that you would get at buying iPhones, but the quality is not that bad.
That's right. I think most of the phones like Xiaomi does actually have a very good quality, but the only problem that most people have it is the interface that looks like it was copy pasted from iPhone. And I think other phones from Taiwan, like Huawei, Asus and all, are also known to be very stable in terms of their operating software. And they don't lag as much and definitely cost almost half or even quarter of the price of an Apple iPhone.
That's true.
But people still, of course, iPhone does have its reputation as well, although the screen cracks, but it's still it's still known to last quite long. And the operating software is also quite powerful.
Well, with the iPhone 7 coming out in next year, 2016, I'm sure Samsung will also be very competitive to come up with something else.
Definitely.
Hopefully, Grace. Korea. Go Korea.
You have to send the memo to Korea.
But, you know, when you use technology, the best place to do it is a place that has Wi-Fi. And what's place that has Wi-Fi other than, of course, coffee chains?
Yes, coffee chains in Malaysia, especially, right? Personally, I've seen a lot of growing startup coffee chains in Malaysia, which is a good sign because youngsters, they start to think they want to become entrepreneurs and then to be able to establish their own companies. And starting from the small coffee shops, they have gained a popularity, and also with the culture of having coffees, studying there using the Wi-Fi and stay there, have their own hangout session and coffee. They created a whole new culture among younger generation, especially college students. Now it has gained more popularity to working adults as well. So during the break, they will go out to the coffee shop and then they will spend their time, even finish their work at coffee shops. So with that, the next year, 2016, I don't know that the coffee shops will be there, increase the number of the coffee shops, or will there be any shifting trend towards the tea or different kinds of beverage?
For me, I think coffee will still be the eat choice for most of the people in Southeast Asia. But I think tea is definitely something that has a growing interest among the Southeast Asian population.
Right. That's true. I mean, if you actually read some reports, tea does actually have a higher caffeine than coffee, and it's more effective to keep you awake. But I guess it's also a marketing thing that has put coffee out in the spotlight, that okay, if you want to stay awake, you drink coffee, don't drink anything else.
So whether it's tea or coffee or whatever flavor that is hip right now, I think at the end of the day, we know that younger generation today, they love going to cafe. Cafe is the only place where they can keep tab with the latest news, with its free Wi-Fi and all. And I think that's one of the reason why people love going to cafe. And moving on from cafe, we talk about fashion. And in the past, we'll probably talk about the latest fashion week and what's cool and not. But I think in today's generation, people actually prefer to shop online.
Right, definitely. I think online shopping is very, very easy. I'm a major fan of online shopping because it's really whatever you want is really just a few clicks away.
And why not physically go to the shopping mall and buy your clothes at H&M and all?
Well, first of all, I don't have a car, so it saves me a lot in terms of transport to begin with, and also it saves my time. I mean, I can just sit at home. I don't have to get changed. I don't have to put makeup. I don't have to do anything. I just have to turn on my computer and just pick what I want. But I think it's also the kind of things usually I don't really buy clothes because it's better to try them on before you buy. But anything else like bed sheets or pillowcases or phone case, even sometimes if it's just a t-shirt or whatever, it's so easy to just get them from the net.
That's very true. And you can also return your item when you're not happy with your item.
True.
Also, they have certain terms and conditions coming with it. But when it comes to trend, right, I can also talk about hairstyle and also makeup. A hairstyle this year, what was hot was the dyeing at the bottom. It's a deep dye, it's called, right? And it was very, very popular among especially girls. So they
I have no idea,
green or blue or
it
red,
applies to
whatever
longer
the color.
hair, so.
Yeah. But perhaps for next year, maybe it will be a reverse way or top dye hair or something.
You never know.
Yeah.
Well, if it happens, Grace, well, you predicted it.
And then also the next one about the fashion is makeup. The most famous makeup technique skills that was going really viral was contour skills. Paint your face and they put the sponge and it's just spread all those paint.
This is from the Kardashian effect, right?
Yeah,
the
mostly
trend comes from.
So I really don't know what's coming up makeup skills that the girls can learn from, but this went really viral with the lip pouting, that small. I'm sorry about the sucking machine. They use it for. Yeah, so we can expect more when it comes to makeup and fashion.
That's amazing. I mean, I wish I know what you guys are talking about, but I obviously have no clue. What I can say is, I think what we are seeing right now with the emergence of YouTube and all other social media, trends comes and go. Shopping has become so easy and it has become so personalized. I mean, you go to online and you shop for things that you really love, not because you are following certain trends.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I think that's something amazing.
Yep.
Before we end the show, Gowri has some predictions to do, not on us, of course, but on her football.
That's right. Two predictions actually. One is the most urgent one, which is who is going to replace Jose Mourinho
Me.
as the manager.
I am going to
at
replace
Chelsea.
him.
Well, then Chelsea will move to the bottom league, not even in EPL anymore.
But who are the potential ones?
Well, they have a few promising ones here. One of them is Carlo Ancelotti, who just got sacked from Real Madrid, actually.
Oh, right.
Because we were actually doing well, but just because we didn't win the title, the Spanish league.
I like how you say we.
We, right.
And you say you're not a Barcelona fan.
Of course. And so he's actually one of the most favorable candidates. But then again, Manchester United wants him as well, so we'll see how that goes. Another one is Diego Simeone. He's the manager of Atletico Madrid, who is equally good, and he's known to take a small team and turn them into tigers.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't need to buy expensive world-class players. You can just give him whoever and he can really mold the team.
Really?
And well, given at this point, he's probably the best fit for Chelsea at the moment. And the last one, which is very unlikely, who is Pep Guardiola. He's managing Bayern Munich at the moment, and he's doing a fantastic job, and they're on top of the list, so it might be a bit tough to land him. So this, of course, there are a lot of other coaches that they're looking at too, but I think ultimately we need someone who can sort of rekindle that spirit in Chelsea, the champion spirits again.
I think it's necessary because they need to really live up to their
exactly. They're league winners. Yeah. And another one is of course Champions League. We're talking about inter-league matches again. That's happening starting February 2016. And we have all the top teams there. We have Real Madrid, Arsenal, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. We have Atletico Madrid, Man City. So they will start playing each other, and we'll find out who is the new champion in June.
Right.
And of course, I don't have a choice. I'm rooting for Real Madrid.
For sure, yes, we have no doubt,
Because
Gowri.
it's my team. So yeah, but Barcelona will probably win again.
So any prediction on our Harimau Melaya?
Well, we just won a game between Selangor and Kedah. That was a big highlight as well.
Right.
But we don't really have any other major leagues happening at the moment, so I think they're taking a break for now. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all from us today. Thanks for listening to Durian ASEAN. I just want to wish everyone happy holidays, and I wish you guys have a great 2016.
That's right. And whatever New Year's resolution that you have from last year, just carry forward it to this year. 'Cause I know that you guys didn't go out and do it.
And Grace, any message to our listeners?
Well, Durian ASEAN wishes you first Merry Christmas and also Happy New Year. And I'm sure you all guys have your own new resolutions. Well, this time be proactive and move forward, because no matter what's going on in Southeast Asia or in Malaysia, you guys have your own goals. Just go ahead.